Hey everybody, Graham here. So it was a pretty crazy weekend in the Eliza sphere. Dr. Hines and I did our live stream on Saturday, and and that was a lot of fun. And we went over some of the more recent developments as of Saturday. Though you could be forgiven for not realizing that we did that because basically when Hines and I start talking, we have subjects that we want to hit, but a lot of the times we're just having fun. And so the conversation can go off the rails a little bit. But it's always fun talking to him, so I don't mind if you don't mind. Anyway, we go to the Timcast website and look in on Shane Cashman's article, and we see this. Boom. Now look at this little note down here, right down at the bottom. Due to the fact that the gonzo journalism style of this series was misperceived by readers, the series in its entirety has been removed. We apologize for the inconvenience. So originally they had just pulled part 3, and the speculation was that somebody they referred to in the article as quote unquote the gang stalker, it was known who he was, and there was some speculation that he might be considering legal action. But I just want to say this. I know gonzo journalism. I was reading Hunter Thompson and Tom Wolfe in high school. I have been voracious in my reading of gonzo journalism. What Cashman wrote was not gonzo journalism. What Cashman wrote was lazy journalism. Cashman didn't make any attempt to bring the truth of the situation to light. He didn't talk to Brittany Venti. He didn't talk to the Quartering, and he was proud of that. He said so in the article that he didn't want to engage the noise machine or whatever it was that he said. But these are people who were literal victims of Eliza's abuse of the Twitter and YouTube moderation systems. So not talking to them is really bad journalism. It leaves out part of the story that could change the entire perception of the story. So the story was not misperceived. The story was perceived correctly. The story was miswritten. And that's really what I want to say. And look, I like to support independent journalism. I, up until recently, really liked Timcast. I like the Quartering. I like Popcorn Planet and Yellow Flash and Tug and people who are out there just trying to figure out what's going on and telling the rest of us. That's the sort of thing that I like. And I liked that about Tim. But Tim pulled a move that was a serious, big media, legacy media, corporate media move. He went out and did an article where the conclusion of the article was already written in the writer's head before he'd even started to work on the story. And it showed, and people recognized it, and people saw that it didn't jibe with reality, and that it was just badly written and irresponsible, and it really reflects badly on Tim. Now, the other major development there is that Tim has announced that he's leaving Timcast. Presumably he'll still own it, but he's not gonna... He doesn't want to be on it or anymore, things like that. And my suspicion is, when you saw how angry Tim got last week when he went off on his viewers because they were telling him they were going to drop their subscriptions, my feeling is that Tim is probably burned out and frustrated. which I understand, but, you know, you want to be a player, you want to get in there and, you know, have a multi-million-dollar corporation that's going to do news and opinion. This is what you signed up for. You have to do it responsibly, because if you're doing it on YouTube and you're going to go that indie route, you have to be prepared for your viewers to push back when they think you're wrong. That's why independent journalism works. That's why I can trust someone like Tug, because if he gets it wrong, people will tell him. And if a journalist has any ounce of pride in what they do, they will check it out. Say, well, maybe I was wrong. You know, you can't be so intellectually arrogant as to say, I have the story and nobody else knows anything. You have to be willing to entertain the possibility that you're wrong, and you have to be willing to chase down those facts. And personally, I have found the most satisfaction in investigating things when it turns out that I am wrong. Because when I have an idea and I go into something and I start looking at it and realize that I've been wrong about something, it's sort of well, okay, I didn't know this. Let's really find out. Let's dig in and find out what the actual truth is. And that, to me, is oftentimes more satisfying than researching something and finding out that what I supposed about it from the beginning was right. I mean, that's just spending a lot of time to confirm your own bias. So I think ultimately Tim did the right thing by pulling the story. I don't like that little explanation that the gonzo journalism nature of it was misperceived. Gonzo journalism has been around since the late 60s, early 70s. So, you know, we're talking 50 plus years. People know what gonzo journalism is. They can get a feel for that, and they know what a puff piece is. So I'd like to be able to cut Tim a little slack. I can acknowledge that personally he's maybe a little stressed out by this, and I personally think he should just take a week off and rest up and not look at the internet if that's possible for him. Being the head of that company, I don't know if it's actually possible for him to take a break from the internet or not, but I think it's worth doing, especially Twitter. Twitter is just so toxic. I try really hard not to look at Twitter on the weekends if I can help it. And sometimes when I do, the only thing that I look at are my DMs. If it's possible for Tim to do that, I think he should. Do a little introspecting. Try to come at it with a little bit of humility. It's hard knowing these people only through their media perceptions. I mean, obviously, I don't know Tim personally. I don't know what kind of guy he is. I can only speculate based on how he presents himself on his shows. So I don't know how much of an ego the guy has and to what extent that would prevent him from sort of looking at this and going, okay, well, what did I do wrong? How could I make it right? I would like to see him do that, and I hope he does. If he decides that the time really is right for him to retire, then great, good for him. But I still think he should look inward and see what happened there. But at this point, I think we can say pretty definitively that Eliza's story is a smoking ruin in a crater in the ground. I don't think she has any credibility left whatsoever. The only problem here is that Brittany Venti is still locked out of her Twitter account because she won't take down the video that she put up, or the tweet that she put up with the picture from the video. Now, it's been, as far as I can tell, fairly conclusively established that there's nothing illegal or illicit about the video, and that Twitter was wrong to lock Brittany out of her account, and they should let her back in. So I think if there's any further activism around this, it should be that. And it should be, and I'd really love to see, I don't really see this happening, but it would be great if there could be an installment of the Twitter files that went through how this happened, and in particular, how this happened with Elon running the company. Because it does appear that Eliza had an outsized influence within Twitter. And it should not happen that some people have more pull than other people because they happen to know people who work at Twitter. You know, just because Eliza knows Ella Irwin doesn't mean that she should be able to get Ella Irwin to do things for her. So that's something I think that Twitter really needs to investigate and deal with. But anyway, I mean, I'm gonna stay on this in terms of what the fallout tends to be, but I think at this point, you know, the article in her defense has been pulled in its entirety. Supposedly, Cashman is going to put up another part, and we'll see what he has to say. If he says anything other than, I was completely taken in by a grifter and wrote a puff piece, then I don't think it's going to be taken very seriously. But in terms of the actual story, apart from Brittany Venti, I'd say it's over. I don't think anybody's going to be listening to Eliza much after this. So, there it is. We'll see if anything further develops, but if not, we'll move on to talk about something else, I'm sure. But in the meantime, I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're having a good Monday, in as much as that's a possible thing to do. And I'll see you all in the next one. Graham out. Bye.